Hi, everyone. I'm Elena Park. I'm delighted to welcome you to this event and conversation with Janae Bridges, presented by San Francisco Opera. And we're here to kind of mark and celebrate the episode on San Francisco Opera's website and other channels of In Song, featuring Janae Bridges and Damien Sneed and a few other amazing musicians. I wanted to welcome General Director of San Francisco Opera, Matthew Shilbach, to join me now. Hi, Matthew.
Hello, Elena. How are you?
I'm well. I'm really, really happy and excited to share this look at these artists and to see Janae's work and life and artistry. I wanted to ask you, how did you come up with the idea of In Song, and why are you doing this series at San Francisco Opera?
Well, I'm just thrilled that we are here. I'm thrilled that we are launching the first episode of In Song. And I want to just begin by thanking you, Elena. You have been a huge part of this, directing, producing, and just helping us bring this conception to life. And last year, we were thinking about how do you create on the digital screen that visceral energy of live performance. That moment when you're in the theater and the hairs stand up on the back of your neck and you just feel like you have just been transported into another time, another place. That is so hard to find on the digital screen. And my colleague, Greg Henkel, and I, Managing Director of Artistic, were thinking about this, and he sort of really gave birth to this concept of this idea of showcasing artistry and humanity through song, and what it means to sing, what it means to connect to people through song, but to try and peel away the layers and to try and find that intimacy, that connection, and that kind of emotional spirit. So that was our hope, and I'm just thrilled because to me, what Janae has given us in this really deep opening up of her life and her artistry, I think has found that. I'm certainly getting hairs on the back of my neck every time I watch it.
Well, when you and Greg Henkel were thinking of artists to showcase for this, why did you immediately come up with Janae? I know she was at the top of your list.
Well, she is one of the most expressive artists that we work with, one of the most incredible voices that we have been privileged to have on our stage in recent years in a number of different roles, from Andrea Chenier to Carmen to Girls of the Golden West, and somebody who just has so much to say through music and who thinks about music deeply and who thinks about the audience deeply. And again, for us, we're trying to find that emotional bond, that bond that you feel so deeply in the theater, and to find an artist who would be generous enough to share that at a deep level, at a profound level, and who could connect artistry to community, to family, and to us as audience members. And so it was really a privilege when Janae said yes, and we could begin this series in such a meaningful way.
Well, do you want to do the honors and invite our star today to join us?
Well, Janae, please join us, and please know how grateful we are for your sharing your life, your artistry, your family, your wisdom through this In Song piece. You are a cherished member of the San Francisco Opera family, and I couldn't be more proud to be launching this series with you. So thank you for taking time to be with us today and sharing some thoughts about what this means to you with us.
Wow, thank you for that beautiful introduction. It is such an honor of mine to start and premiere this incredible new digital series. I'm so grateful and inspired by you.
Janae, darling, we can't see you yet. We want to see your beautiful face.
I can see Janae.
Ah,
there you are.
Yeah, I can see me. Okay, can you see? Everything's good? You can see me, hear me?
Yeah.
Great, yes. So, you know, these last months have been incredibly tricky for all of us. And as a performer, naturally, it's just not the same singing through a screen as it is on stage. And so I'm so grateful to you, Matthew and Elena, for your vision in making this process such a joy, and also bringing music to life again in a way that it's inspiring and brings great fulfillment.
I should say that I think that it's great that Matthew and San Francisco Opera are so active now in this time, taping things in the atrium, doing this series, planning for a drive-in Barber Seville, because I just think people are so hungry for live experiences and for connection. And I think one of the things that really struck me and Matthew is how, as he was saying, how deeply you invited us into your world and shared your village with us. Matthew, is there anything that particularly struck you as you were watching these multiple different versions as we were trying to figure out how to get this into a short story? Because it could have been like an hour-long documentary easily.
I just, the joy of it, the joy of seeing you and Damien and the others creating and just being together. And there's just that very special energy when things happen together, and so much has been on Zoom, so much has been layered, tracks being placed on top of one on top of the other. And just to see that real authenticity of music making, that just, it gives me such hope for what comes ahead, because I think we will never take for granted how important that is, just to be in communion with other people, with artists, with audience members, and to know that this is a collective activity. So I think you really feel that. You really feel that in the way that you were connecting on screen and how you're making music. So I thank you for that gift.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely felt a great privilege to be able to make music live and in person again, and to feel each other's energy and spirits. It's something that you just cannot duplicate through the digital sphere. So I was so grateful to have that time with my colleagues. So thank you.
Well, in case people haven't had a chance to watch the full thing yet, because it just is debuting today, we're going to see a clip that takes us right into your village. That will be a good jumping off point for us to talk about your story and your background. And Matthew, just thanks for joining us at the top, and thanks for letting us have this adventure with Janae.
Thank you both. I hope you have a wonderful exploration of this ahead.
Thank you, Matthew.
Growing up in the Bridges household was always a party, and it still is. They wanted us to be able to express, and they introduced us to music, dancing, just to get us to communicate. I personally was really shy and would just observe the room, but my mom was wanting to get me to speak and interact and react. So there were many occasions and many different ways to get us to do that. The church has been a huge staple in my life. I grew up in the AME, the African Methodist Episcopal denomination. I started singing in the gospel choir at age 4 or 5. And, whenever I go home, I say, hey, Pastor, I want to come home and sing, because this is where it started. In the Black church, singing is what we do. It fills me up, it equips me for what life throws at me.
So Janae, the process of doing this and all the questions that my co-director Molly McBride threw at you, did it make you take a step back and think about where you came from and your roots and all of that? Or did it just reinforce things that you already knew about your village and your community?
It definitely reinforced the love that I share with my community and my village. I did have a moment where I thought, wow, I'm so grateful for these questions, because my village and the people that really helped pave the way for me, I've thanked them, of course, but I never have really spotlighted the village. And so there was a moment in the interview when Molly was presenting the questions that I just thought, I'm so grateful for this. And I hope and pray that everyone that has been a part of my life feels the gratitude that I have for them, because I truly would not be who I am or even where I am in life without all of the guidance. And it's just really my ode to love and ode to joy to my village. So yeah, it definitely reinforced what I already knew, which was that I come from an incredible support system. And yeah, it's just a privilege to be able to thank them in this way.
And I need to give a special shout out to your parents, Paris and Pamela Bridges, because as people will see, and they saw in the clip, we put cameras in your home and they let us capture your intimate family moments so that you're able to capture this and share it with all of us. And so I'm just full of thanks. The first time we started even talking about this as an idea, my first question to you was how you had met Dr. Maya Angelou, because I had read somewhere that you had met, and that brought us to someone, a matriarch who has kind of guided your steps along the way. And Catherine, if you can put in the photo of her, that would be great. Tell us about Dr. Maxine Mims.
Yes, Dr. Maxine Mims has been, like you said, a matriarch of the village and in my life. She's my adopted grandmother. And she actually founded the Evergreen State College Tacoma campus. She has educated so many people that otherwise might not have been able to get a college degree. My father is a graduate of the Evergreen State College, and you know, he really didn't anticipate getting an undergraduate and master's degree, but Dr. Maxine Mims gave him the courage and the love that so many people don't experience because of whatever reasons. And so she has not only been a big supporter of mine, but she really is the glue to to not just my village, but I feel like the state of Washington. Everyone knows who Dr. Maxine Mims is because she's epic, she's a giant, and she is a living legend.
I was struck that when you made when you had the opportunity to sing the role of Carmen on the stage of San Francisco Opera, that so many people traveled from your hometown to see you do this.
Yes.
Tell me about that. We have some of the photos in the end credits.
The village, yes, the village just runs very, very deep. So I made my Carmen debut at San Francisco Opera in the summer of 2019, and it was just such an anticipated moment. We were all so excited, and I literally had people, I feel like all of Tacoma came. And I had also friends and family from across the country, even out of country. So I would say, I can't remember which show it was. I don't think it was opening night, but there were over 100 people, and we had a big after celebration that Miss Sylvia Lindsay graciously hosted, who is on the board of San Francisco Opera, and she is now a part of my village. And it was just, I felt in that moment that I am a product of so much love and encouragement. And that's what the village is about. You know, it's about preparing the young ones, and not just young ones, but everyone, but especially targeting the young and the youth to aspire to greatness and to instill in them values to succeed. And so all of these elders and friends and family that came to support me, I just felt a great sense of pride. I was proud of myself, but I was proud to see them proud. You know, it really, it filled me up, and that's what that was. That's the point. It's like they gave so much to me, and this is what I have to give back. Me living my success, my truth, and really going for what I love, and thankfully being, successful at it.
Yes, I should say so. Is Carmen, Matthew mentioned some of the roles that you've done. Is Carmen like a great, comfortable calling card for you? I know you did it at San Francisco Opera. You were supposed to do it this season at the Met. And then you also did the contemporary work, John Adams' Girls of the Golden West. But what's comfortable for you, or what's your kind of home base in terms of repertoire and things that you love to do?
Well, it's funny because like I said in song, I don't like to be boxed in, and I honestly feel that I'm comfortable with so much. I love singing Carmen, of course. I personally know that I have to be careful with the character only because it's a demanding sing and it's a demanding role, and there's so much other repertoire just to keep my voice flexible and malleable. So yes, Carmen is definitely like, I love her. I want to sing her forever. But I'm now delving into bel canto, singing Donizetti, the Tudor trilogy. And I really, you know, Damien and I, we are always discovering. And when we were rehearsing for In Song and finding out what we wanted to do, we sang through Widmung, and his eyes and mouth were just like, you need to sing more German. And I was like, yes, I need to sing more German. And I want to. So I'm putting that out there. But, you know, Strauss is a composer that I love. And with that, I mean, there's so much art song, and I love art song, and I love orchestral works. So, you know, I really feel at home with music. I do.
Yeah, that's one thing I love about both you and Damien, is that you just can embrace a wide variety of styles. Let's watch a little bit of that Widmung where you and Damien are collaborating in the shoot at Blue Gallery in New York. If we can just see a little clip of that.
Du meine Seele, du mein Herz, du meine Wonne, du mein Schmerz, du meine Welt, in der ich lebe, mein Himmel, du, darin ich lebe, oh du mein Grab, in das hinab ich ewig meinen Kummer gab.
Okay, I know people are like, wait, where's the rest of the song? But we'll just give them a little taste so that they can enjoy the full thing. I think this is the perfect time for us to bring in your collaborator, Damien Sneed. So if Damien can join us. Both of you are in New York,
Yes.
coming in from New York.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Damien.
My brother.
Hello, hello.
Well, Damien, congratulations on this beautiful work. And as I mentioned, I just love that you're able to do classical, jazz. We see you doing spirituals in this. And I think, like Janae, you don't feel like you need to just do one thing because it's all music that draws you in.
It's all music, it's all expression, and I'm so grateful to San Francisco Opera and to Matthew as well, and the phenomenal crew. Everybody, Elena was phenomenal working with the videographers and the audio acousticians, I'll say that. But I really want to say this publicly if I can. When Janae talks about village, I'm her friend, so I can say this. Janae and I met while we were students at Manhattan School of Music, and I needed a village because I was a long way from home, from Augusta, Georgia. And my father had just died. My mother was suffering with advanced dementia. And I would literally, I'm going to be very transparent, I'd come into the cafeteria, and sometimes all I could do was cry. And Janae was one of the only people who every single time, every week, every day, if I came in, she would say, you know, you can let it out. I'm here, I'm listening, I'm here for you. And that is what that's the epitome of a village. And so we've been friends. A lot of people don't realize it, Elena. Janae sang in Chorale Chateau She was one of the first members singing in my choral group with Wynton Marsalis. She never pushed for a solo. She was always a star, but she was just right there. And those are the things that people need to know about citizen artists like Janae Bridges. She's always been consistent. She's always been the same. And so our relationship that a lot of people wonder, well, why do you all work together so much? It started many years ago because we've been able to be a village for each other and to be friends and to be family. She's all the way from Seattle, the other coast, but she's been the same Janae, and I celebrated her when she was at Curtis and celebrated her with the Lyric Opera Chicago, and I celebrate her now, and it's an honor, sincerely as a friend. I remember Leontine Price, she did an interview saying that her friend Ben Clyburn, his Carnegie Hall debut was the same night as her Town Hall debut. And so Janae and I feel like that often. I was glad she was able to do one of my Carnegie Hall premieres, but she's a wonderful person, and this project in song is just absolutely amazing to peer into her life and to peer into the career and the creative art of artists like Janae Bridges and other artists that San Francisco Opera will be featuring.
Janae, let me ask you, well, first of all, like, so beautiful, but I'm in case there are like young singers out there, this thing about you never pushing for a solo, why was that? Were you just waiting for your time? Were you getting your things in line? Did you just know it would come if you did your work and were in the right place?
That's an interesting question that I've never been asked. I think it was a combination of things. I think, first of all, I was so green. You know, I grew up singing in the church, but as far as classical vocal music, I was very new. So I wasn't going to try to push forward with something that I really wasn't comfortable with completely. But I was so grateful to Damien and those who did include me in their circles and in these experiences, because I just like to sit back and learn. I'm like a sponge, you know, that's my personality. I'll sit back, I won't say much, but I observe the room. And so that's really what I was always doing, especially as a young singer. And I remember as a young artist in Chicago, I would just watch the stars and watch how they communicated. And I learned things that I wanted to do and that I liked, and some things that didn't seem so right, but it was all a learning process. And so there's that aspect just of my personality. But then I also truly believe that my parents instilled the love of God in me, and it's just not of God to feel jealous or want to be always in the spotlight, you know. So if right now you could say that I'm in the spotlight, but that's not why I sing. That is not my goal. I enjoy it who doesn't like attention, but that is not the premise of my artistry or who I am. So I'm grateful for that foundation, because I really feel like that is truly why I typically haven't sought to be in the spotlight per se.
Yeah, I was really surprised, just because you're so composed and articulate, that you described yourself as being shy and that your mother and your family helped draw you out, because you hold the light really comfortably and beautifully.
Thank you. Well, thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, when did you overcome your shyness? And Damien, when you knew Janae, was that something that you observed, or did you overcome that when you were younger?
Damien, you can speak if you want.
Well, she didn't come across as shy, but she wasn't one jockeying for position. She was not one saying, "See me, I'm here." I believe that is a direct result of her village. I believe it has to do with her training. I've had a chance to meet her family, with the parentals, the parenting, everyone in her community, also growing up in the church. Janae and I, as our mentors we are ones who try to literally be cloaked with humility, because you never know, someone backstage or on the street who speaks to you on the subway, when things were opened, you never know who that person is going to be. And for example, with Corella Chateau, so many people like, wait a minute, she was with us and, didn't say anything. And so you never really understand a person's true calling or who they're meant to be. That's why every relationship, every interaction is nurturing. It's didactic. It can teach you something. And with Janae, when I first met her, she was quiet, but she would talk if you talk to her. But she didn't have a very bombastic behavior or personality where she's like, here I am. But when she's on stage, like when I started singing at the Met, I was just like, oh my goodness, that's Janae. It's like she allows the stage to be that place of expression, but she's very down to earth when you're speaking with her in person. So she can hold her own, but she never exudes that, in front of people, like, I am Janae Bridges, I'm a diva. I've never experienced that from her.
Oh, thank you. And I will say about Damien as well. When we first met, I was a freshman, I believe, in my undergrad, and Damien was a star. I mean, he was a star. He was always on the road. He was working. He was balancing Le Chorale Chateau. Didn't you do 2 degrees at Manhattan School of Music, or you did a degree? Yeah, and piano. And he was involved, playing for Jesse Norman and collaborating with Wynton Marsalis. So he has been up there for a very long time. But you might know that just because of how incredibly gifted he is. And after hearing him, it's just like, oh wow, he's different. But he never exuded arrogance or cockiness or anything like that as well. So when we did become friends, it really felt like a match made in heaven.
Well, since you mentioned Jesse, maybe let's take a minute and just talk about this artist who gave you some pivotal advice, Janae, and Damien had the opportunity to collaborate closely with, which I can't imagine all the gifts and the learning that came with that. You all talked about her when you were rehearsing for the taping that we were doing, channeling her, thinking of certain colors in the sound. Can you just talk about Jesse Norman, please?
Well, this is just so full circle because I was introduced to Jesse Norman through Damien because I was singing in 2008 at President Obama's inauguration with Damien's choir. Jesse Norman was there and she was involved, and I can't remember if she sang or not, but I just remember seeing her backstage, and my mother was with me, and she encouraged me to say something because, again, I was just so shy. That moment, I remember being very nervous and shy to approach her. So with my mom's encouragement, also literal push, I said, hello, Madam Norman, I'm Janae Bridges. I'm an aspiring opera singer, and thank you for who you are and the light that you are for this world. Do you have any advice for me? And I just asked her if she had any advice. And she said, darling, learn your languages and sing from the depths of your soul, in this very grand voice. And I just thought, I feel like someone has prophesied to me, over me or something, because I immediately felt taken into another level, actually. And I was still the same Janae, same, 19-year-old. But that moment, I thought, wow, she spoke something into me. And so when Damien called me to sing with him, collaborate with him for her funeral in Augusta, Georgia, I immediately started crying and I said, yes, yes, yes. It was pretty surreal, actually. And I will also add that my very first rehearsal at the Metropolitan Opera, I walked through the backstage door and I looked at my phone, and Damien texted me. I saw some other text in the news that she passed away. Mm-hmm. I immediately started crying, and I just thought, wow, I felt like the torch was being passed in a way, because I immediately thought of her words and her presence. And I, as sad as that moment was, I was also just so grateful and joyful for her presence in my life, and her presence and artistry and all that she gave to the world. So yeah, those are some of my thoughts about Jesse Norman. Damien,
I just want to say, and you were singing at that time at the Met, Queen Nefertiti, in the Philip Glass Akhenaten, which
Yeah.
was just extraordinary. So Damien, I mean, you worked closely with Jesse over a long period of time, and I can't even imagine what that was like in terms of collaborating with an artist like that.
Thank you for giving this moment. This is very serendipitous to discuss this now. So Jessie Norman sang at my parents' wedding before they adopted me. She sang Moon River from Breakfast at Tiffany's. She was a freshman at Howard University. I would end up going to Howard University trying to follow in her footsteps. I graduated from Howard. Her sister and I are very close. Actually, Janae and Jessie Norman's sister, Elaine Sturkey, sang together in Chorale Chateau. But what's so interesting to focus on Janae, talk about being in the right place at the right time, and the product of the community in the village, because of her humility, because she was singing in a choir where many young singers and young artists are like, no, I want to be seen, I want to be heard as a soloist. Janae leaving at the right time. I remember that moment backstage at the Kennedy Center. Jessie Norman was speaking. She read a speech that evening. Janae and Miss Norman got a chance to speak, but it was because, and I'm grateful to Peter Gelb and the Metropolitan Opera for releasing Janae during that period before her Metropolitan Opera debut for rehearsals. He allowed her and Will Liverman to come and sing the premiere of my work, We Shall Overcome, with string orchestra. And that's when I texted Janae and called her. And we didn't get a chance to rehearse because the other singer got sick. And backstage, we just went through something at the last minute. And the next morning, I think we finished at like 10 p.m. At 8 a.m., we were on a flight to Georgia. And that's how we ended up getting a chance to meet you and performing also at Jessie Norman's memorial tribute at the Metropolitan Opera. But when I think about that moment and when I walked out from the backstage area at the Metropolitan Opera and walked on stage and got ready to perform with Janae, I became completely overtaken because I said, wow, it's so interesting how someone can continue to guide your life, such as a Jessie Norman. But what if Janae and I had never met? What if we had not been working together at the right place at the right time? What if, I had asked another singer, or what if Janae had been like, I am a young artist. I can't do choral work. Because, that's in a lot of conversations, that moment would have never happened. And, these moments and being benevolent and being free with the gift that we've been blessed with, that's what we're about. That's why she sang Ruckert's, and Schumann's Widmung. And that's why we sang I'm Determined, because our gifts for us are not things that we keep selfishly to ourselves, but we freely give them to others. And I think that is a common tone or a point of commonality that is just harmonic in its existence, if you want to say that.
Well, since you mentioned I Am Determined, we'll see the clip of that, but how did you all decide what to sing? I know that Janae was glad to do the Widmung because she doesn't have as much opportunity to do Lieder, and it shows off a side of her that we're very happy to be able to experience. But how did you come up with what to sing? Because there are so many choices that you were at your fingertips.
Yeah, well, I mean, the fun thing about Damien and I is we get together and we don't really know what we're going to do, but it develops because our souls, our minds lead us, and God, we just come together and we say, okay, what do we want to say? And so I expressed to him that I was featuring my village. I wanted to encompass the theme of togetherness and lifting each other up, and pride and joy. And so we thought of a couple of songs, and I said, I want to go to church too. I want to go to church because that is my foundation. That is Damien's foundation. And it's so heavily present in my village. So yeah, I said, I want to go to church, gave him the themes. And Damien is so brilliant because he can just pull from anywhere, any language, any style. And, I said, I want to express with all of my voices, spiritual gospel. And so he said, I'm determined to walk with Jesus. yes, I'm determined to walk with Jesus and I can't feel no ways tired. And I said, yes, that is it. We grew up in different denominations, I believe. I don't know. Did you grow up Amy, Damien?
I didn't, but I had cousins that were at the AME church, so I was exposed at an early age. I grew
Okay.
up Baptist.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Okay, that's right. But there are certain songs that we all, share in common. The styles might be a bit different, but when we came up with these, this medley of spirituals and gospel songs, we both knew them very well and grew up with both of them. And it, I feel like the music that we chose really instantly hits the heart and the soul.
Ellen, I just want to say one thing.
Sure.
Working with Janae it's pure collaboration. It's really collaboration at the heart, at the essence of what we do, because Janae comes with an idea. She's very clear with her idea. She's also open to me making a suggestion, but it's a give and take, and it's very even. And when I work with Janae, I always feel that that it is a collaboration. She never makes me feel like I am an accompanist. She never makes me feel like I'm a pianist. I serve. I am there to undergird whatever she needs to do vocally. But there's a level of respect that comes from both of us when we're working, especially from her to me, which is rare at times. But I think it creates a creative freedom that allows us to discover new places artistically while we're creating. And that's why she mentioned every time we come together, it's something like, even as you all wonderfully captured on video, while we were even in the space recording this, new things were happening because it's alive, it's fresh, it's living. And that is something that makes it very exciting every time we come together, no matter what style, what genre, what venue it is, because there's a constant collaboration that's happening, and it's never stale or stagnant. And I appreciate that, but also it's very fun. It's invigorating, exciting.
Well, let me hold on the clip for a second, because one of the delights of the session was your coaching session and exchange of ideas. And Janae told me that sometimes you get in there and you don't know what you're going to do in advance, as you just said, and that you coach through jazz songs and then you'll dip into some classical. How often do you get to do that? And is jazz a steady part of the things that you kind of tease out together?
It could be jazz, gospel, spirituals, R&B, popular music. I was telling her we probably should do a little bit of the Shirley Bass tribute that she did, the Goldfinger or something like that. That's another thing. Janae is not afraid to approach any style of music. If it's lieder, if it's the spiritual, if it is an aria, if it is, a song that no one would ever hear a classical singer producing with their voice or executing with the classically trained sound. That's what's exciting. So when we come together, if I throw something at her, she's not going to throw it back. She's going to give it back with great intention and excellence. And that's rare as well. But there are a lot of artists that are coming up now who are classical artists who sing opera and sit on the opera stage, the proscenium stage, and sing all over the world, even virtually now in the pandemic, who are embracing music as music. And they will not be boxed in, as Janae said in the San Francisco Opera so eloquently quoted her. She's an artist who won't be boxed in. San Francisco Opera is a company who will not be boxed in their presentation. And I think that's what's going to bring the world and more people back into art, into opera, into music, into the expression that we all have missed because of the pandemic. So when we're able to come back in, I believe it's going to be a rush, because we just need to express, and we need to be who we are and be able to express ourselves, no matter how it sounds, if it may be different from how someone was brought up. And that's the thing about even I'm Determined, the medley, into I Just Can't Give Up Now, I Don't Feel No Ways Tired. That is who we are. That is our expression, our culture, our roots, our beliefs, our faith. But it's also something that others who may be of another faith, they may not even be someone who ascribes to Christianity or to gospel or gospel music, but they can enjoy the trip. They can enjoy the transcendent, transportation of the music and feel our hearts and feel the joy. And I think that's what it's all about.
All right, well, I think that's a perfect intro to the clip. And we're going to talk about Michael and Jonathan on the other side of the clip.
to walk with Jesus. Yes, I am. I'm determined to walk with Jesus. Yes, I am. Through hard trials, tribulations, persecutions, I'll be faithful. I'm determined to walk with Jesus. Yes, I am.
Woo. That's hot.
Yes, hot for the Lord. No, that you could tell. At least I could tell, and I was having so much fun. Damien was having so much fun, and to be connected again with my brothers in song and live, you know, we were feeding off of each other. And you know, when Damien spoke about, you don't even have to be Christian, you don't have to be religious, but you can feel the love that we have and the honesty that we are bringing to this music and to ourselves and to the words that I'm singing. You know, I truly believe them. So it was just so fun. I can't wait until we can regularly do this again.
Well, I have to say the camera people of Justin Irvin and his camera people, they were like in the room with you all capturing this, and they were just over the moon. Damien, you put together the band. You all did a gig the night before at Jazz at Lincoln Center, and then Michael Olatuja on bass and Jonathan Barber on drums came over and did this. You all basically walked into the room, had a mini rehearsal, and then just went to tape. That's what you do. But tell me about these musicians. I know Michael and Janae and you go back a ways.
It's trust. I trust them. They are friends first. Michael Olatuja was at Manhattan School of Music with Janae and I. He would sit at the table and we'd all eat many times. He always has a smile. But it's interesting. They are my regular collaborators. Michael performed with me at Summer Stage and some other projects. And Jonathan is featured on my jazz album, Jazz in Harlem. And he grew up in the church. They both grew up with, you know, backgrounds similar to mine. Michael growing up in the UK, United Kingdom, in London, the London area. But, you know, we came together and they were like, what are we singing? I'm like, you'll be fine. I'll show it to you, because I knew that they would understand the form, but they would also be free enough to improvise and trust that there would be some type of anchor keeping us together. But it was all to support Janae, and it happened in the moment in front of the camera crew. And it was absolutely dynamic and inspiring to me as well. You know, I was watching and singing along, and Janae was just so free, especially the little tambourine part that people can see if they watch the full clip. But they're phenomenal musicians. They were sidemen, as they say in jazz music, for this project, but they are leaders themselves. Jonathan Barber tours all over the world. Michael Olatuja tours all over the world. He's worked in Broadway, classical. They both work in so many different genres, and I felt they would be perfect because I know them. And Janae was just meeting Jonathan for the first time, but he fell in like family. But I'll let her talk about, you know, Michael, but it was such a great collaboration in the moment. And that's what all musicians should be able to do. Just come together and we do it for the art. I'll let Janae say something.
Thank you. Yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, I trusted Damien. I trust Damien. So I just said, get your people together. Like, we're going to have fun. It's going to be great. I was never, ever worried. But that sense of freedom, you know, going back to our roots, that is actually how I was raised with music. You know, I've always read music because I played piano, but in church, you know, there are no rules per se that you have to follow in music. It's just you express, you have that freedom to express. And so whenever I collaborate with Damien, and in this case with Jonathan and Michael, I remember thinking, this is how I always want to feel. I want to approach every composer this way. Now, of course, there are the technicalities of it, and I do have to really, shed in a practice room, because you can't just get out on stage and guess where you're going. But the goal for me now is do the work in the practice room, you know, grind really hard. But once I'm on stage, I don't want to have to think about anything technical. I want to just be able to express. And that's something that I greatly admire about jazz musicians, gospel musicians. It really is just so free and uninhibited. So I'm always learning something. And in that moment when we were collaborating, we weren't working. I mean, I didn't feel like we were working. We were just being, and we were doing what we do and having fun and giving honor to this music and our culture. And in this case, village and God. So I just am so grateful for that moment. And yeah, go ahead, Damien.
Ellen, I want to say something for Janae, because she's always saying, oh, I need to shed, I need to practice. But, you know, actually, Janae's village and her experience playing basketball prepared her for the improvisation.
Yeah.
Because a basketball player, an athlete, trains all the time. She was talking about technique. They prepare for different scenarios. They condition, you know, they work out. They practice their three-point shot, the bounce pass, the dribble. But when they get on the stage, when they get on the field, or when they get to the court, the performance begins, but you have to be able to ebb and flow. You have to be able to improvise in the moment, depending on who's checking you or who's around you, depending on if you're on the defense or the offense, depending on what's going on, whether you need to catch the ball, pass the ball. Remember I talked about our collaboration? That's what we do. We share who's speaking and who's musing at the moment. And Janae does it so perfectly. She's always like, oh, I'm not sure. But she does it so perfectly because it's something that she's accustomed to from her church upbringing. But even with basketball, just being able to be in the moment and to perform at the highest level possible. And I think a lot of singers who are classically trained enjoy opportunities like that, where like that's one of the operas I just created, Marian Song with Houston Grand Opera that commissioned it. There's some elements there for the singers to do that because it's a way of expression, you know, before even with Bach and some other composers, even Baroque period and other periods, there was a guide, like a lead sheet in jazz, and they would improvise or create based on the figured bass or things like that. So it's nothing new. It's not like it's something that just started with this indigenous American musical art form. It is easy for us to express, like a cadenza, like expressing in the moment. And that's what made it so special. I think why you said you could feel it, Elena, because that was happening for all of us. We're prepared. We have the technique. We've been conditioned. But in the moment, it's time to execute.
Yeah, you can surf the wave.
That's great. Surf the wave. I like
and actually, I wanted to get in some audience questions, and it cues up perfectly because you were mentioning Janae's basketball past as an athlete, and there was that juncture where you were forced to choose between basketball or singing. And as I said, we could have done an easy hour on you, Janae, because we didn't even get to the basketball thing. But Heather Young wanted to ask you about how your background in sports has contributed to your artistry. And so she brings up things like daily discipline and body awareness, but she just wanted you to respond to how those things play into your work. And she also said to thank you for blessing us with many gifts, head, body, and heart. But,
thank you, Heather. Yeah, I mean, like Damien said, there are so many parallels to being an athlete and what I like to call an opera athlete. I am my instrument. My body is my instrument. So I'm very in tune with that. And I'm grateful for my background with basketball and sports because I have spent so many hours conditioning, working out, knowing what my hand feels like, just being very aware of my body. So that's one thing, you know, it's very helpful to have awareness of your body in general as any person, but I think especially as a vocalist. And then there's a discipline that comes into play. You know, when I was playing basketball, I was practicing before school, after school. I had to be very organized in my day so that I could succeed. And then there's also the realization that you're sometimes gonna lose. So what I mean by that is you lose a game, somebody has to lose, somebody has to win. But you take that moment and you say, okay, I lost today, what can I do to win the next game? Or how can I improve my shot? Or how can I improve this phrase, going up to the high note? And just really being okay with self-analyzing and forgiving yourself, actually. And again, when playing basketball, it's such a quick sport. So if you make a wrong move, you know, you don't have time to obsess over what you did wrong. It's like the game is still going. So you get over that for the moment. Maybe you can revisit it later after the game when you're just thinking about, you know, how you played, but you have to get over it and keep going. And it's very similar when singing in a 3-hour opera. You might crack a high note or forget a word, but you have to forgive yourself in that moment and keep going, keep telling the story, and being aware of everybody on stage, because everyone is a player. You know, there's 5 people on the basketball court and every single person is attributing to the goal, which is to win the game.
Yeah.
So it's the same with being on the stage. Everyone from the conductor, the orchestra, the stage hands, the wig and makeup department, we're all a team. So treating everyone with respect and respecting their different positions is something that I also think basketball really helped with.
Yeah. All right, another question. This is about repertoire, Janae. Kirk Davis said, you were so great as Nefertiti, which we talked about, and Akhenaten. Any plans to do more glass? How about Satyagraha? And what about Wagner?
Wow. Well, I actually did Satyagraha with LA Opera.
Oh, yes.
I did. And some of the most difficult music I've ever learned, but it was so cool. It was just very cool and different and challenging. I don't have anything on the books right now, but I would love to sing more Philip Glass. I love his music and his writing. Wagner, yes. I mean, I think of our Jessie Norman, and I see the trajectory of her career and the repertoire that she sang, and she sang Wagner and was praised for it. And I can see myself doing that one day. I mean, I've sung some baby Wagner when I was a young artist in Chicago, covering roles and singing smaller maidens in Parsifal. But Kundry in Parsifal is a role that I would love to sing one day. So yes, that I hope.
Yeah, I hope so. All right, 2 comments. One is from Kay and Henry. You are so much sunlight per square inch. That's it. That's the question. Sending you love and admiration from Oakland. And then for Damien, Christopher Street says, Damien is amazing, all caps. This is kind of fun, actually. I'm going to share love with you from my phone. This is a long question, but I'm going to read it because I think you're going to have interesting things to say about this. This is from Napoleon Williams. I have a question, but I don't know if it falls within the ambit of the discussion. I grew up in churches in the South, but I'm from a much older generation than you. During my childhood, the singing tended to fall into 2 parts. One was restrained and traditional, similar perhaps to how Leontine Price or Marian Anderson sang, and what one sees captured in Alvin Ailey's Revelations. The other form emerging then was more in tune with developing modern music and its forms of expressiveness. In opera, I think singers are confronted at the outset with portrayals which were traditional in form when they first became acclaimed. However, I would guess that opera directors, composers, and opera singers would feel attracted to modernizing or updating portrayals, music, and settings. In church and opera, are the issues the same?
Damien, I'll let you speak on this.
I'd love to answer that. Being a person who also grew up in the South, in Augusta, Georgia, Jessie Norman was a mentor of mine. We went to the same church. I grew up at Good Shepherd, but also Mount Calvary Baptist Church. There was a style, there was an art, there was that time period of Leontine Price, Marian Anderson. My mother and father were both trained in piano at an early age. They both sang in the chorus. It was like required. Culture was required many times in the Black familial unit or in the Black family. But what's interesting, he spoke about Alvin Ailey. Revelations. I just was commissioned by Alvin Ailey to create music for Testament, which became a film, a short film, which was in homage to the 60th anniversary of Revelations. That's the first performance my parents ever took me to see the Alvin Ailey tour to Augusta, Georgia for Revelations. So this is what I wanted to say. as an opera composer and as a composer, uh, in church and in opera, and also as someone who does church music, yes, people do always want to develop modern music and its forms of expressiveness, but there's always a moment of people returning, like neo-classical or something, you know, going back to what was. I think that Leontyne Price and Marion, what they did in their era, is, it is, and there's nothing that can be changed with that. That was that time period. Musicians became more expressive in rhythm, in colors, in texture, in experimentation, and you know, that's why people express it. For example, Lawrence Brownlee and I, he had me create spiritual sketches. They are not spirituals in their completion. They're sketches. So sometimes there's a full verse, sometimes it's just a chorus, but it incorporates jazz, it incorporates gospel that's more modern with a lot of melismatic riffs and runs. I don't know. I think there's an appreciation for both. I love just something that's simple. I love art in a certain time period, but I love being expressive. I love something that millennials and jazz musicians, that's age and maybe ascribing to a genre. I love something that people who are older ascribe to. I think that's what a lot of opera companies are keeping at the forefront of their programming, trying to incorporate everyone, trying to have, you know, La Boheme and maybe the Ring Cycle and, you know, the Marriage of Figaro, and then at the same time, maybe something more modern like Akhenaten, or maybe even Rake's Progress, or Marion Song by Damien Sneed or some other composer, or, you know, Terence Blanchard, or I'm just naming people. But I think that they both have their place. And I think with gospel music, there are people that compare traditional. Shirley Caesar, everyone knows her. But when Shirley Caesar was singing with the Caravans, she was considered to be too contemporary. Now she's traditional. Kirk Franklin, who was contemporary at one time, is sort of considered to be traditional. So if you live a little while, I'll be traditional in a moment too. So, you know, it constantly changes, but we have to make sure we don't get stuck. That's a great question and a great observation.
It's a great question, and that's why I wanted to read it in full. Yeah. Janae, did you have anything to add?
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, just to add on to that, I mean, there are so many stories to be told and so many voices to be heard, and that comes in all genres and all forms. And I truly am intentional about being boxed in. I mean, like I've always said, but it's true, because I'm just interested in expression, and there are so many different ways to go about that. So I think that they're all valid. You know, nothing is better than the other. It's just a different form of communication that someone is bound to connect to.
I love hearing you all talk about that, because I think it's people like you who will make opera continue to be a kind of a living, breathing, evolving form. And Damien, I have to catch up with your more recent operas. I've been keeping up with what Esperanza Spalding and Wayne Shorter are doing with the Iphigenia opera, where, as you were saying before, they allow for some room for improvisation and expression within the writing because of the backgrounds that they come from and what they bring, you know, to the table. Want to say, let's see, we have to wrap shortly, sadly. Phyllis Center said that she loves that you share your experience of being blessed with your gifts with all of us. And she says, say amen. So that's great. So we need to wrap soon, sadly. Is there anything else that you wanted to add? Because I know people are just so curious about, you know, both of you and Janae, your work and your story. And I also want to know where you're doing those tutor roles coming up. So I don't miss those. Is there anything else that you wanted to add before we have to leave?
I'm personally just so grateful for this moment. Thank you, Elena, for hosting this wonderful conversation and helping my story come to life so beautifully. Thank you. And Damien, my brother, my collaborator, my friend. This is the first, well, not the first, but we will continue on our journey. And I hope, actually, Damien is very humble. I shouldn't say humble, but modest. And he writes extremely well for the voice. And, you know, it's not always the case with composers. So I am one of his biggest fans, and I always have been. And I just hope that, and I know actually that more opera houses will commission and collaborate with him, because he has so much to offer, and he can go there dramatically as well. He is an opera composer. He is an art song composer. He is a gospel. He's everything. So people would be remiss to not engage Damien. So yeah, thank you so much for everything that you have done for me and my life. Yeah.
I really do feel like this is like a celebration of where you have come to date, both of you. And then that San Francisco Opera, this platform is just a wonderful thing. And I just wanted to say that Stephen Mallorca was the editor who worked with all of that Tacoma footage that Janae's family and she called, as well as all of the beautiful stuff that was shot at Blue Gallery. So just want to give a shout out to him.
Yes,
and,
beautifully edited. Thank you.
Yeah.
I just want to thank you, Elena. Thank you for this platform, San Francisco Opera, the general director, Matthew, everyone there, the team. Thank you all for giving us this platform. And thank you, Janae. Janae works with a lot of great composers and pianists, a lot of my friends and colleagues, and I'm grateful to have this opportunity. And to all the people watching, there is more coming from Janae and I, where we will be presenting works of varied, a myriad, of genres and styles to express. And this is so needed right now. And it's so needed, these conversations and the ingenious, witty idea to have this in song series to allow music to come into people's homes on their iPads and their cell phones and their cars, wherever they are, because we all need this healing. And I hope that people will not only watch our episode, but all the episodes coming out. And just thank you all. Thank you all for supporting us. You all are the reason why we do what we do. And just thank you.
Yes,
That's
thank you.
sweet.
And one last thank you to my village. I know many of the village, many members of the village are tuning in right now. So I just personally want to thank you for the love and the guidance that you have shown and imparted on me. And I hope that I continue to make you proud.
Yeah, all love to the village. Thanks to Carol and Dixon Dahl, whose Creative Edge Fund makes these things possible. And I just want to say that somebody named Janae Gaither, I just love the fact that her name is Janae.
Yes, I know Janae.
Oh, you do? Okay. Well, she's loving the convo. She's so proud of you, and she can't wait to hear and see you all again when you can get back to the theater. And I think with that, everyone watch the episode, tell your friends, look out for the next In Songs, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.